Join me as I explore the exciting world of model railways with behind-the-scenes features, step-by-step tutorials, interviews, videos, reviews and much, much more. I'm Dawn Quest and I love building model railways. Coming up, I talk to a railway modeller with a glamorous past in the film industry. Move over milk train, here's the milk chocolate train. And an impressive fiddle yard you just have to see to believe. Well, it may have been a cold, rainy, wintry November morning this morning, but it hasn't stopped people coming out in their droves to this, the Gravesend Model Railway Show. The reason, because of course they love model railways. Like these two N-gauge layouts from husband and wife team Yvonne and Brian Chapman. Yvonne and Brian are members of the Headcorn Model Railway Group. Yvonne is here with Oaklands, which started life as a simple oval, which she added additional interest to with two running tracks, one with an elevated section. Right next to her is Brian's layout, Downlands, the single board end-to-end, but has grown to a run-round. The layout depicts country life with two main lines running through the local area. Featuring heavily is the morning Eurostar to Paris. And what I love about this layout are all the little details, like these workmen here on the coal heap, keeping warm with the brazier alight. It's not just what these trains look like, of course, it's what they sound like. Take a listen to this. This is from Medway Modellers, a mixture of British and American stock on a 24-foot track. If you know the film The Italian Job, then you'll know that famous last scene with the coach hanging off the cliff. And this gentleman here had something to do with that. This is Mike Perry. He was the assistant designer on that film and also the production designer on Our Wiedersehen Pet. Mike, what was it like working on The Italian Job for a start?
Well, it was quite hard work. A lot of my work was overnight. I was doing a prep for the filming the next day. But when the main unit, with all the stars, I'm afraid, came back to England to do the control room scenes, I stayed behind to organise the coach on the cliff. So I became the second unit art director and worked with the second unit director and cameraman. And we set up the rocking coach and everything for the end of the film. I mean, there are lots of things that you don't realise. We didn't have any stars. Well, they'd come back to England in the coach, but we actually rocked the coach physically ourselves. We had it balanced on its central gravity and rocked it. And inside was a camera on a tripod, and that filmed through the back the mountains going up and down. So when they did the scene back in the studio with the stars, Michael Caine and everything, Arthur Noah, I got an idea. It was the film projected behind it that made it look as though the coach was going up and down.
So your filmic experience is clear in this layout, the tar works. You're here today with this wonderful layout. You've given us a demonstration. It's so fantastic. There's a great story here. Tell me a little bit about the tar works. When did you get the idea?
Well, I used to create full-size images, fiction, fantasy scenes, working in film and television. And when I retired, I felt quite frustrated, and I wanted to try and create the feeling of those things that I'd done in my production. So I needed a vehicle, if you like, to justify making these architectural models. And so I turned to model railways. So having a track there, I could then put industrial sites around it. The other thing is that in the country, land was cheap. So stations were enormous, but I only wanted to do something very small and very intricate. So it had to be industrial because in town land was expensive. So I decided on the tar works as I come from Birmingham, and I knew the Midland tar distillers were there, and it provided the perfect black country Birmingham industrial background. And I've tried to make it as realistic as possible. To get the authenticity, I put extra detail on. So for instance, I add the chain and the pins that would be used to hold down the brakes. Although they're very, very tiny and you don't really register them when it's on the track, they add that little bit of detail, that little bit of fussiness to the thing that makes it look real. I've even made my own corrugated iron with rivets from aluminium takeaway trays.
Thank you so much, Mike. It's been a real pleasure talking to you, and I've really loved your layout. But before we go, I did notice on the bridge over there a little scene from the film Brief Encounter. And as you know, I have a Brief Encounter monochrome model layout of my own, so I love that little scene. Windmill Hill was one of several layouts at the show aimed at children. It's been specially designed for younger members of the family to have a go. I think the suites in particular were very popular. And it wasn't just about the trains. There was lots at the show for the mechanically minded. I couldn't resist having a go myself. Now, normally I might start by showing you the more scenic parts of a layout, but the Fiddle Yard from Gordon's Lane by the Beckenham and West Wickham Model Railway Club is so impressive in its own right. At a whopping 24 foot long and 12 tracks wide, it's operated by a team of people who have quite the challenge on their hands. Gordon's Lane is a fictional location somewhere on the Wessex Main Line. It's modelled with third rail and a multi-purpose vehicle maintenance depot alongside the running lines. The layout is DCC controlled with full colour light signalling. The sheer size of Gordon's Lane is quite something. It can run full-length stop. This goods train took 42 seconds to clear this point. Club members were recently featured on Channel 4's Little Trains and Big Names with Pete Waterman, being filmed giving modelling tips to Status Quo's Francis Rossi. That's it for part 1. In part 2, I find out just why there's an oversized dog on the station platform. A busy locomotive shed takes centre stage in this 00 layout, and I get a lesson in point control from some junior model railway club members. Join me next time for this and much more. If you enjoyed this video, I'd love it if you'd like, share, and of course subscribe to be notified of when my next video is released.